Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her, not necessarily change her. I about slipped up there, didn't I? Had a Biden moment right off the bat. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about first, I know one of your favorite people, Ocasio-Cortez, in other words, known as AOC. She's come out now with a Instagram, I guess, video or something like that, and essentially says that speaking the truth, calling things what they really are, is white supremacist, is racist, and we'll expand upon that. And then Biden, the Biden administration has kind of under the radar, it's come out that they've granted amnesty to illegal aliens already in this, quote, border surge, which we'll know now that the word surge is racist, according to AOC. So we'll talk about both of those. But before we go any further, we always have to talk about our sponsor, our sponsors, but our number one sponsor is BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited. We come to you live from the Big Daddy Unlimited studios in Gainesville, Florida, Monday through Friday every day, or as close to it as we possibly can. But Big Daddy Unlimited is our chief sponsor, and we're very grateful for them. To look at all of our sponsors, look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. Scroll down in that section, and you will see links to our sponsors. In this case, it's Big Daddy Unlimited, your Second Amendment headquarters, because not only can you get guns and ammunition, yeah, I said that, guns and ammunition delivered at factory direct pricing right to your doorstep, but you can also purchase over 100,000 other items at factory direct pricing that have to do with the Second Amendment, like protective gear. You can even get swag. You can get survival stuff, all kinds of things, even knives for that matter. If it's related to the Second Amendment, you can get it from BDU, and they are your Second Amendment headquarters because they literally are defending your Second Amendment rights on a daily basis, which is one of the reasons why they sponsor shows like ours. So we're very grateful for that. We also have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. They produce patriotic-themed shirts and other gear, and they are what you call a total fulfillment center. And I'll explain that in a second. But remember the promo code, the initials of our show, John Martin Talks, JMT, and you'll get 20% off. What a total fulfillment center means is that they can design a shirt specifically for your needs. They can set it up to send it out to whatever event you're doing, and they can help you pick a charity or use the charity of your choice and make sure that the proper proceeds go to that charity. So they're all encompassing. Check out patriotthreads.org. Of course, Recoil TV, we have a YouTube channel. They have one. It's Recoil TV. Of course, we have one ourselves. John Martin Talks, spell it all the way out. We need more subscribers and views on that. But Recoil TV, we have a channel on their YouTube channel where our show is archived. They produce high quality professional videos about all things related to the Second Amendment, from demonstration of the latest guns and ammunition and how to use them, right down to other tactical gear and stuff like that. So check out Recoil TV. You cannot go wrong. All right, before we get into the meat and potatoes in the show, it would be unjust of me or undue if I didn't wish you happy April Fool's Day. Happy April Fool's Day, or as known in the Biden-Harris or Harris-Biden administration, just another day at the office, because they're totally surrounded by fools. But I picked this cat meme specifically because I know that apparently cat memes are very, very important. Every now and then in the show, I have a segment where I say, if you don't get anything else out of the show, get this. So we're going to start with that right now. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, how you could become a gazillionaire. I'm not talking about just, Elon Musk rich or whatever, but the richest person maybe in the universe. If you can figure these two things out, first of all, even now and from the very beginning, the number one search on the internet is still porn, pornographic stuff, right? Number one. Keep that in mind. And apparently, still in first place on Facebook, the number one most popular meme is anything to do with cats. It's just over the top. So if you could combine those two, if you could figure out a way to combine porn and cats together, man, you talk about a new social media platform, you would surpass Zuckerberg in a day, man. So take that right there. Find out. Now, I granted it gives you a whole new version of what kitty porn might mean. And I'm only kidding, Mr. Algorithm, so don't attack me. But anyway, happy April Fool's Day. I hope you don't get pranked too bad today. All right, let's get into the show. This is from Business Insider. Ocasio-Cortez, AOC otherwise, says referring to migrants coming to the U.S. as a surge is a white supremacist dog whistle. How do you do that, by the way? I mean, I grew up in the South, assuming I'm an old white dude, assuming I might know something about it. I couldn't tell you where the cluckers meet anyway. But what is a dog whistle? I mean, how do you do the white supremacist dog whistle? We know that supposedly if you do like the OK or the 4-3, I mean, apparently a lot of black dudes from what I've seen with the March Madness, they've been doing a lot of dog whistling because apparently they go around and go, yeah, all the time. So I really don't know what it means. I don't think Ocasio-Cortez does either. And to me, that meme right there, as unflattering as it may be, is probably the perfect one for her because she really is a jackass among jackasses. She is the queen Twitter twat. I call the squad the Twitter twats. I don't know if you might be offended by that, but I actually think I do that quite often. But I actually think that that's a better description of that crew than the squad myself. But let's get into the meat of this. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's very difficult for me to, I'll tell you, I hadn't talked about her much lately, but when I say her name, it's like I got to pronounce it or I got to kind of whisper it. It doesn't seem to be any in between. Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Tuesday said that referring to the rise in border crossings over the past few months as a surge or invasion smacks of white supremacy. So what if you say it's not a surge? Does that still mean, because you used the word surge, because we've heard that? Biden said it was just normal. Now, Biden is about as old and white as you can possibly be, man. He is mighty whitey for sure, right? I mean, I'm Captain Whitebread. I haven't used that in a while. By the way, I haven't said this either in a while. And just in case I know we got a lot of new listeners coming every day. When it comes to like white guilt, I just don't have any. That doesn't mean that there's not racism, slavery repercussions, all that kind of stuff. But pretty much everything I've gotten, I've worked pretty hard for. And I don't care what the color of your skin is or what your social background is. America, pretty much, you talk about self-made men or women or whatever. The self-made guy is usually the one digging the ditch. The people, contrary to what Obama said, you didn't make that. And then, of course, Biden now has turned around and said, you made that. So I don't know which. They're pretty confusing to me. But I've had a lot of help along the way. But I don't feel guilty about it. I'm grateful. I have white gratitude maybe, but I have gratitude for being an American. It has nothing to do with my skin tone. I realize that just simply being born in the United States of America is a blessing. And of course, now they're throwing kids in the water. They're throwing children over the border wall. It's just absolutely insane. But to call attention to that apparently is racist. But Ocasio-Cortez, listen to what she says here. She says so much of our national conversation, which is not a conversation about immigration, is driven, and it's not about immigration, by the way, it's illegal immigration. We're not talking about migration. We're talking about illegal immigration. Is driven by, which is, I guess, a bad word too, is driven by people who could not, this is Ocasio-Cortez now, could not care less about immigrants. So often, people want to say, why aren't you talking about the border crisis? Or why aren't you talking about it in this way? And then she goes on to say, well, we're talking about it, but they just don't like how we're talking about it. I thought about it when I first read that. Now, she's crazy, but I have to give her a little credit. Maybe she's on to something, because she says people like me don't like what they're saying about it. And I got a couple of back-to-back videos that shows bipartisanship on this idea, and I don't agree with any one of these two guys, either one of these guys. The first is none other than Joe Biden. Of course, he says the surge is normal, but I guess we shouldn't be surprised, because back when he was running for office for the 14th time or whatever, he said this about illegal immigration. Check it out.
We can afford to do this this is a big country. The idea we can accommodate more people in the interest of the United States. And by the way, guess what? They're the reason why. The legal as well as undocumented are the reason why our society is functioning, the reason why our economy is growing. We don't talk about that. We stand up and act like it's a burden. It is not a burden. It's a gift.
It's a gift that keeps on giving and giving and giving. And apparently I underestimated it yesterday. You know, I reported on our story yesterday. Check out our podcast. There's several ways to do that, by the way. You can go to our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. You can go to Recoil TV, as I talked about. You can look at our Facebook page, or you can go to America's Voice News, AVN, America's Voice News, which is a great alternative to mainstream media. Now, we don't have currently a live show on there, but our show is archived on there. So they have a streaming service on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, America's Voice News. You can download free apps on your Android or your iPhone. They're on channel 219 Dish Network and the Pluto channel. But go on their streaming service and look under their shows tab. Click on that, and you will see our show archived up there every day. And America's Voice News, I say, is a great alternative to the mainstream media. But it's a gift. Joe Biden says it's a gift because yesterday, and I say it's a gift that keeps on giving. Because yesterday I reported that the Department of Homeland Security's own numbers were saying that it's going to be 800,000 illegal immigrants are going to cross into the United States over this year. Well, CNN now, hardly a right-wing publication, has now come out with an analysis that at the current trends, that 800,000 is peanuts, man, that we're going to get 2 million illegal immigrants coming to this country over the course of this year. 2 million. That's what CNN is reporting. That's not just what I'm saying, you know. Check them out. But I told you I was going to play back-to-back videos. So we got Ocasio-Cortez. She's saying that, and I want to make sure that I quote her correctly here. She says, we aren't talking about it this way. She says, well, we're talking about the surge and all that. She says, they just don't like how we're talking about it. So I showed you Mr. Biden, El Presidente Biden, who said it's a gift. Now, just in the spirit of bipartisanship, which I tell you means Republicans cave, let's show somebody who was supposed to have been the 45th president, not Donald Trump, by the way. This guy was supposed to be the president. And let's hear what he has to say about people bum rushing the border. Check it out.
Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony. It's kind of it's an act of love. It's an act of commitment to your family.
CBS News political director John
An act of love. So it's a gift. It's a gift. It's bipartisanship. People bum rushing our border. I guess when they throw that child, like there's a video out where they're throwing a child right into the Rio Grande River. What a gift that is, right? I mean, it's crazy, man. And this is just happening on a daily basis. Drownings are up dramatically in the Rio Grande right now, by the way. Brought to you by Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. But, you know, here you have this bipartisanship and Jeb Bush, man. I mean, Donald Trump did us many, many great services. But one of the things was getting that guy off the political set because, my God, man, it's time. Do you imagine having to tell people after you give a speech, it's time to clap? I mean, good Lord, man. Even if you hate Donald Trump. You gotta love the fact that he got rid of Jeb Bush, man, low energy Jeb. But listen to what Ocasio-Cortez went on to say. She says, it's not a border crisis. It's a border plan is what it is. And listen to this, it's an imperialism crisis. An imperialism crisis. It's a climate crisis. Of course, we only got 10 years. One thing about it, if we only got 10 years, which she said that like 4 years ago, right? So we got about 6, or was it 12? Either way, we got 6 to 8 years to live, unless Biden saves us, of course, according to Ocasio-Cortez. So maybe it really doesn't matter how many come across the border anyway. But she says it's not a border crisis. Excuse me. It's an imperialism crisis. It's a climate crisis. It's a trade crisis. And it's also what is this? A carceral crisis? I'm not even sure what the heck she's meant. She went on to argue that the U.S. foreign policy legacy in Central America, its trade policies, and its contributions to global climate change have been disproportionately affected the global South. So she's blaming this on the United States of America. I don't know if that's true. See, AOC, now keep in mind, she's no dummy. She's a graduate of one of the most prestigious universities on the planet, certainly in the United States. She's a graduate of Boston University, not Boston College, but Boston University. And she majored in economics. And apparently she did quite well. Well, you know, I guess part of her economics is she never divides or subtracts. Because I don't know if you saw this, but Biden is proposing what? 2 to 3 trillion in infrastructure spending and a raising of taxes. I mean, one time he said 4 trillion, so it's getting confusion. But Ocasio-Cortez, not to be outdone by Joe Biden, and I kid you not, she came out and said, well, if we're going to do an infrastructure project, it should be at least 10 trillion. So, you know, math doesn't matter to these people. But she's inferring by this statement that South America, the problems that they have in South America of poverty, climate change, all kind of stuff, are directly because basically of imperialism of North America, I'm assuming, United States of America. Well, I got news for you, Miss Ocasio-Cortez. Maybe you should have taken a little bit of history lesson. Because South and Central America and Mexico really hasn't been the same since the fall of the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayans. I mean, it at one time was one of the most scientific. It was a scientific center, especially with astronomy and stuff. And you look at the building, and I'm not being facetious about this. I'm a great admirer of the culture that was developed down there. But since the Incas kind of went away, or the Mayas just basically disappeared, it ain't quite been the same. And last I checked, maybe I'm wrong, because you know they rewrite history every day, that the United States didn't have anything to do with that. It was those old Euro trash, man. Some of those Spanish folks came over here, the conquistadors, and conquered that. So I'm thinking about it. If you put in line, if you go with the Democratic line of the train of thought, shouldn't we ban Spanish? I'm not necessarily, I'm not advocating, but shouldn't we ban Spanish? Because the natives to South, Central, and Mexico, they didn't speak Spanish. I mean, that's the language now. And of course, in Brazil, it's Portuguese. They didn't speak Portuguese either, by the way. It was that Euro trash that came over here seeking gold. I'm not defending them in any way. They were brutal, no doubt about it. And they basically wiped out the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayans were pretty much already gone, searching for gold. And the legacy of the conquistadors is basically everybody crossing that border down there is speaking Spanish, which is the direct causation of violence. And I don't know if you want to call it white supremacist or what, but if you use the logic of the left, shouldn't we ban Spanish? Because it's a legacy of the conquistadors. I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe we should. Ocasio-Cortez, and think about this too. I heard this on a side note. They're getting children so young being dumped across the border. Now, how these children got there, I guess they crawled across Mexico. Maybe you put them on top of the train. But they literally have children now that don't even speak Spanish yet coming across the border because they're too young. That's crazy, isn't it? Ocasio-Cortez also pointed out other issues with using the word surge. I guess they're not talking about like some Italian, hey, surge, Sergio. But the word surge, is it like, I don't know, saying the word surge. But she said that there's other problem. Listen to this. She said, anyone who is using the word surge around you consciously now, I got to say, I've used the word surge a few times, and I don't think I've consciously done this, but this is what she says. Anyone who's using the word surge around you consciously is trying to invoke a militaristic frame. Yeah, when I see these young children, floating in the river or being dumped over there, the thing I think of is, yeah, we're being invaded by like the tiny tot military. I mean, give me a break, man. It's just crazy. And she said, and that's a problem because this is not a surge. These are children. Yeah, they are. They are children. And they are not insurgents, and we are not being invaded. So people, forget the children for a minute. We've had people over the last few years come across our border in caravans, carrying foreign flags and chanting stuff from foreign countries. Yet that's not an invasion. And they are not insurgents. We're not being invaded, which, by the way, is white supremacist. So if you say surge, invasion, white supremacist idea, philosophy, that the idea is if an other, not another, but an other, someone different than you, somebody not white, I'm just going to translate it the best I can, is coming, I speak Ocasio-Cortez, by the way, is coming in the population. That is an invasion of who we are. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Ocasio-Cortez, apparently you didn't get too much out of Boston University because you are a precursor to idiocracy. Have you heard that term? You ever seen that movie? If you hadn't, it's kind of dated, but it's pretty funny. Idiocracy, where somebody like Ocasio-Cortez basically goes into the future and was one of the dumbest people, but went into the future and is now one of the smartest people. She could be ruling that right there. But idiocracy is upon us. Early Wednesday, freshman GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of my heroes, accused Ocasio-Cortez of lying and being racist and connecting the term surge to white supremacy. I got to tell you, I'm becoming a big fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, I know she's been pushed to a backbencher and everything else, but this gal has courage and speaks up. And that's what we need more of. We need more people across the aisles, across the racial spectrum and everything to just basically stand up and say the emperor has no clothes. That's what we do. That's one of the things I do on this show all the time. And that's one of the things I'm very grateful to President Donald Trump for. He basically blasted away, at least for people like me, this whole fear of political correctness, because I'm not afraid of it. I'm not going to be kowtowed and called names. You can call me whatever you want. I'm going to keep speaking the truth as the best I possibly can, as long as I have this microphone. And even then, I'll be out on a street corner shouting it. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, man, she's something else. But and I agree with her, connecting the terms to white supremacy. Everything is white supremacy now. I got to tell you, I'm not saying there aren't white supremacists out there. I'm not saying there aren't Ku Klux Klanners, but where the heck are they? If they're this big, are they just a total shadow force? Because I couldn't tell you. I don't know the handshake. I grew up in the South. I don't know where they are. I don't see them. When we used to see Ku Klux Klanners quite a bit 40 years ago at places like the drag races, handing out these pamphlets they had in this newspaper. I remember one time at the Gator Nationals, I went over and got one of them so I could read it because I'd never seen it with the Klansman or something like that. And when I read it, I'm like, man, whoever believes this nonsense is a pure idiot, and I don't see where it's changed that much. So I'm not saying there's not racism because, like I've said many times before, you can't legislate what's in a person's heart. You can pass all the laws you want. People, hatred is real. Racism is real. But now what I think has happened is there's like a counter racism. I mean, basically, I'm being judged by my skin color on a daily basis, apparently. People like Ocasio-Cortez, I'm basically evil because I'm just alive. It's just crazy, man. Biden has made explicit public calls discouraging potential migrants from crossing the border to the U.S., but his administration is still contending with how to cope with the current immigration situation amid the COVID-19 pandemic, or as my readers, our listeners sometimes say, plandemic. You pretty much got me convinced that it probably is. But I got to call BS on this. Total BS. Let's look at this paragraph again. Biden has made explicit public calls discouraging migrants from crossing the border. Yeah, he said, hey, don't come now. We'll wait for later. We're ready for you. But Biden made a call, as all the Democrats did back in the 2020 campaign when they essentially said decriminalize crossing the border. And yeah, we'll give you free stuff, free medical care when you get here. They had an open season for migrants. I mean, there is a reason why people are pouring into this country since Donald Trump. I mean, we saw that video, we played it last week, where the guy literally was asked by ABC News, would you have come here? He had a family of 5 with him from Brazil, of all places. Would you have come here if Donald Trump was still president? And the guy, without hesitation, said, absolutely not. And he said the primary reason he was trying to come here to start with was get away from violence. But he said Biden was the reason why he chose to come now. And I take the man at his words. This is total nonsense. And this idea about COVID-19, to put COVID-19 as a pandemic in the same paragraph as illegal aliens, the way they're doing in this, is just terrible. Because they don't care about COVID-19. They absolutely don't give a hoot about it. Because if they did, they wouldn't have people literally just bum rushing the border that we know are a high percentage infected with COVID-19 and just being released without any testing or anything else, and even released after they've tested positive all over the country. They don't care about COVID-19. They really don't, because the proof is in what they do. You could judge people by what they say. The better judge is by what they do. But here's the thing, and another reason why I say all of this is total nonsense. We played this yesterday, but I think it bears replaying. This is an actual video. Got to give Ted Cruz and the Republicans that went down there. This is from earlier this week at one of these containment facilities or whatever for these kids. Remember that they called Donald Trump everything but a child of God for detaining migrant children. This is a real center that Biden and his administration, this is no April Fool's joke. I wish it was. This is real footage. Check it out. We'll come talk about it. Pretty sad stuff, isn't it? I mean, they talk about the COVID-19. Does that look like they care about COVID-19? They got these people packed in there like sardines. They're kids. You can't even tell one from another. And some of those blankets probably have more than one person under them. And they're just packed in there. And this is, like I say, I got to give Ted Cruz and his group some credit for shooting that. And I talked about this yesterday, but I got to mention it again. Where is Ocasio-Cortez in this? I mean, you remember when they were accusing Donald Trump of basically running concentration camps, that she was down on the border just and saying, oh, that they were drinking out of, this is from a few years ago, that they were drinking out of toilets, which one of my producers asked me when I talked about it yesterday, did she really believe that? And I don't know. It's hard to say with her because she's bright and dumb at the same time. She is literally a candidate for idiocracy. She will be president of the idiocracy. There's no question in my mind about that. But where is she now? Why isn't she? I mean, she's talking about words like the surge and everything else. Why isn't she down there rescuing these children? I just don't understand it, man. Because they don't care. They're all BS, and they only care about power. So it only matters. It doesn't matter that the fact that there's more of these children than any time during the Trump administration. But that don't fit the narrative, so they don't talk about that. But while we're at it, ladies and gentlemen, let's play. I want to play because she's talking about words, and they have this power and dog whistles and white supremacy. I want to play you this video. And this video was something that she did on her Instagram, I do believe, right after it was announced that Justice Ginsburg had died, Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died. This is what Ocasio-Cortez said about that moment. She didn't say mourn her. Listen to it, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Let this moment radicalize you. Let this moment really put everything into stark focus. Because this election has always been about the fight of and for our lives. And if anything, tonight is making that more clear to more people than ever before. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to get more and more and more clear up until Election Day. Things are going to happen.
Yeah, things are going to happen. So she can tell you to let it radicalize you. And I take her at her word for that. You know, take it to the streets. But more and more and more, she says, right? But when it comes to the border, when CNN is now reporting, I remind you, if you're just tuning in, CNN is now reporting that according to their analyzation of the situation, that we're going to have upwards of 2 million illegal immigrants cross into the United States this year. 2 million. Let that sink in for just a moment. But Ocasio-Cortez, why isn't she down there at the border taking care of these children? I mean, tell me. I don't know. Make sure they're not drinking out of toilets. Well, so words matter. Her words don't, right? She's saying radicalize you. I mean, that's more than Donald Trump said on January 6th, right? Can you imagine if Trump said, let this moment radicalize you when you go to the Capitol? Oh my God, man. They'd be like hit squad. They'd be storming him like the FBI did Roger Stone. I mean, it's just insane. So I'm going to say the word surge right now because I believe we're having a surge. But ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. You cannot allow yourself to be kowtowed by these people. Because if you give them an inch, if you let them know, it's kind of like a bully. Once you let a bully know that they can bully you, they never stop. They only get worse until you punch them in the mouth, so to speak. Like Mike Tyson once famously said, everybody's got a plan until you punch them in the mouth. What we got to do is politically punch back. We've got to man the political ramparts like we never have before, or else we're going to lose it all. Because they're going to keep coming. And if you go back to the comfy, and I understand the draw of this, I feel it myself. If you go back and just say, well, you know, it's over maybe, or there's nothing I can do, and you go back and get in your comfy life, which I want you to enjoy your life, by the way. I hope you have a great Easter weekend coming up. Those kind of things. But if you just pack your toys and go home, so to speak, and just live out your life, which you have every right to do. You know, the life, liberty, and the pursuit, not the guarantee of happiness. But if you do, understand this, the Ocasio-Cortezes of the world, the Joe Bidens, certainly the Kamala Harris, they're just going to walk right over us. They're just going to walk right over us. And if you don't believe me, listen to this next story right here. This is a Breitbart story. Biden's DHS, Department of Homeland Security, rewarding border crossers with 1-year permits to live in the United States. 1-year permits. So people literally just getting here today are being given essentially amnesty. Because if you think it's going to end, it never ends, right? Even going back to like Ronald Reagan. He granted amnesty. Now, I think he thought certain things were going to happen, so I don't want to beat him up too much. But the reality is, those people, we didn't get the promise that we were supposed to and strengthen and tighten up the borders. It was a one-time deal, supposedly. But those people have never left, and they never will, man. What is the actual number of illegal immigrants in our nation right now from everywhere? They keep saying, oh, it's 11 to 12 million. 11 or 12 million. They've been saying that for like 30 years. And like I say, I don't blame people for trying to get here. But we can't have an honest conversation about this issue at all. It's just crazy. President Joe Biden, back to the article, President Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security, DHS, is rewarding border crossers with 1-year permits to live in the United States, a new report confirms. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, as we speak, in California, children, these illegal immigrant children that are in these detention facilities, do you know that they're getting in-person teaching? In other words, there are teachers holding class of sorts, tutoring in person these children in these detention facilities. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but what bothers me is that while at the very same time, like I say, in California, what's happening in California with American citizen children, or for that matter, illegal children that have been living in, DACA people in Dreamers or whatever. They're not going to public schools. Public schools are shut down. The only people going to private schools are getting in-person learning are teachers union kids and the upper echelon, the elite people. The average working class stiff out there that may not can afford private schools, their kids have been out of school for over a year now. But yet these illegal immigrants are getting in-person learning. Are you okay with that? You can hate Donald Trump. You can hate me, whatever. You can be a totally left-winger, whatever. Can you honestly look at yourself in the mirror, especially if you have school-age children that have been out of school for over a year, and say that you're okay with the teachers going and teaching these illegal immigrants, but not your children? I just don't see how. Wake up. How can you possibly put up with that? Many of the border crossers, as detailed by the Center for Immigration Studies, Todd Besseman, are being rewarded 1-year permits, this is what he said, to live in the U.S. in a process known as parole. Parole. So I guess they're getting these people used to that term. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, can eventually extend these permits. You think? If you were a betting person, what would you think the odds these people ever leave the country once they've gotten these status permits? I would say it's 0. Once in the U.S. interior, this is interesting and scary. Once in the U.S. interior, border crossers are able to apply for work permits via the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services Agency to take U.S. jobs. Border crossers, Besserman reports, are being boarded on Greyhound buses after they are given parole to travel to states like New Jersey, Florida, Michigan, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, Indiana, Texas, and Georgia. And that's only because we know it because they're still in U.S. custody when they do that. If they're put to these NGOs, non-governmental organizations, like Endeavors, Catholic Charities, there's multiple ones. And I'm not saying they're all bad, but the thing is, when they put them into these NGOs, once they get in there, it doesn't matter if they test positive for COVID or whatever, like they're supposed to be like 14-day quarantine them in these hotels. Once an NGO has custody of an illegal immigrant, they can send them anywhere in the nation or just let them walk out the door and never report it at all. They're not required to report it at all. Earlier this month, during a hearing before lawmakers, Department of Homeland Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas admitted that the administration was releasing border crossers into the U.S. interior without testing them for the Chinese coronavirus and without requiring quarantines. So this is truly, ladies and gentlemen, let me check my time, a pandemic. And I ask, where's Kamala? Isn't Kamala Harris? Billy Bob tells me, he's my psychic sidekick, by the way. If you haven't met Billy Bob Bass, he's got a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're trying to stay in tune to all of the social media. We refuse to to run away from the public square. They're going to have to drive us out, and they're trying really hard. I appreciate your tenacity as our viewers in finding our program. Please share it far and wide. Please support our sponsors. At least give them a look, see if you can find something there. But Billy Bob Bass tells me that we have an answer to whether or not where Kamala Harris is. One thing we know for sure, she may be shopping or something with CNN. She may be trying to bitch about which mansion she's going to live in Washington, D.C. and being pissed off about it. But we know for sure, I take these progressives at their word. We know one place she's not going anytime soon. Check it out.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again.
I got to say it every time I see these videos of Kamala. What is it with the cackle? Cackling Kamala is her. I mean, not today. I mean, people are literally dying down there. Children are being thrown in the river, dumped over the wall. I mean, we're talking about 2 million, according to CNN, over the next year. And Kamala is supposed to be in charge of this. I never thought she would, by the way. We talked about it yesterday in the one clip. Her press secretary said, "Oh, Kamala's not doing the border." What the heck does that mean? She's not doing the border. Or she, it's like some dance or something, or some nightclub. Oh, she's not doing the Palladium. I guess I dated myself. Probably closed. But I guess Billy Bob has it right. Apparently, we've sent the wrong dog to the border. Instead of Kamala, man, we should have sent Major, and what's the other one's name? These are Biden's dogs, man. Did you hear that Biden's dogs, his one dog that got sent, put in timeout for biting somebody, came back and bit somebody else, and apparently is crapping all over the White House. There's reports of that, man. So maybe we sent the wrong dogs. We should just send Biden's dogs down to the border. Or maybe Biden himself. Maybe Biden himself ought to go down there, protect himself from whatever he could cone up like that. I don't know, man. It is absolutely crazy what is happening down at the border, and they don't seem to give two hoots about it. Let me check my time. We got a couple minutes left. I want to mention this other story that I got here. Don't have any pictures per se to pull up about it, but this is from Politico, and we're only going to cover a couple minutes. It has to do with the vote that the state of Georgia just cast and was signed, I think, into law about election reform, tighten up, basically going back to the way things were before this consent agreement, and they're catching the devil for doing it. Biden endorses moving the Major League Baseball All-Star Game out of Georgia. President Joe Biden on Wednesday said he would strongly support moving the Major League Baseball All-Star Game out of Atlanta in response to Georgia's newly passed voting law that critics say restricts voting access. Nonsense. Even the Washington Post came out and gave Joe Biden 4 Pinocchios on the Georgia ruling when he talked about they won't give them water. That's a lie. When he said that they were cutting voting to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that's a lie. Washington Post even said that Georgia has expanded early voting. The only thing that Georgia really has done that pisses the Democrats off is voter ID. You got to have voter ID to vote, and you got to have voter ID and witnesses on mail-in ballots, on absentee ballots. You can't just blanket mass mailing them, and they're doing away with Zuckerberg's drop boxes, which should have been illegal to start with, all over the thing. But here's what Biden said. He said, "I think today's professional athletes are acting incredibly responsibly," Biden told Sage Steele of ESPN. He said, "I would strongly support them doing that. People look to them as their leaders." Really? Do you look at these sports figures as leaders? I don't. I got Major League Baseball. Go ahead and shoot yourself in the foot, because I can tell you that people like me are going to quit watching this stuff. And here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. I'll say like Biden. Here's the deal. We have, if you believe in the Constitution, if you believe in the United States of America, if you don't want to see us because my sole political goal, and we'll close the show with this, I've been telling you for a while, I got one political goal. It is to stop the progressive takeover of this nation. If you believe in that, so I don't care if you're running for outhouse, catcher, dog catcher, at White House, anything in between, whether it's fair or not, that's how I'm going to judge you. Can you stop the progressive taker, or at least help us stop that? If not, I don't have time for you no matter what party you are. If so, then I don't care which party you are either. I'm going to support you. But let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, are you with me? Because if you're with me, we've got to make a stand. We've got to have the courage of our conviction. We've got to support states like Georgia that are catching the devil right now. We have got to let them know that we're with them. And places like Florida, that's why I talk about a state's got to come together. We've got to support the people that are in the fight and have the courage. And we got to stand up and say the emperor has no clothes. That's what we got to do. Educate ourselves and others. Motivate ourselves and others. Activate ourselves and others. And when you get a chance to vote these rascals out, eliminate them. That's what we got to do. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, share it with others. Our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. Support our sponsors. I'll pray for you, your family. You pray for my family. Man, we better pray for this nation. She deserves it and absolutely needs it more than ever. But like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.